My name is Chris McMaster, Senior Solutions Consultant. I will be kind of taking us through the development and succession piece. Now, as we get into the development module, this is something that a lot of organizations will actually maybe even start in the year-end review process. So as the year-end review comes and we're looking at goals that maybe an employee fell short on, maybe a competency in which they didn't quite live up to the expected kind of rating, we could actually go into that last year's performance review and actually start a development plan. So making sure that as we come in, we can kind of make sure that we're taking action and really letting them know that this isn't just the area that you need to improve, but here's a development plan that ultimately may even help you improve in certain areas. And you'll also see once we get from here a little bit further, the development will also start to link into things like learning, where again, maybe there's specific trainings that are going to help me fill this gap. So whether it's performance, whether it's 360s, that's really where you can identify some of those gaps or areas for improvement, and then have that action plan via development to help try and fill some of those gaps. As where when we look at succession, we're going to more so identify successor candidates and really need to prepare them for that role through development. So here you can see Jeff Hill's kind of sample development plan. These are just some of the things that he's being held accountable for. Again, these are goals that were set up either by my manager and me as we had a discussion. These could be goals that I've set up for myself as I'm working for different opportunities. Now, as I add a goal, I can come in and create a goal from scratch right here within the system. I can basically decide if it's public, if it's private, if it, what's some of the specifics of a goal. Now, this is a great thing because a lot of organizations don't always necessarily know what is some of the specific goals that they can set up. So this is a place where the coaching advisor can really start to help people with, again, starting with a little bit more of a kind of not a blank page, but being able to come in and see, I'm looking at delivering high quality work. Now, basically using some of the predefined concepts and information in the system, we can actually now come in and basically start to use any of these as a starting point. Whether it's just kind of writing a goal, I can come in and see, you know what, I've kind of make regular improvements to my work. And as I choose this, I can actually go down and then see some of the different specific information that's going to come across. I can change the narrative from more of a me to you type phase, and then place that text right there in the goal box. Now, this is something that as I place this text, I can then come back and maybe add specific information about the coaching advisor. I can select another competency, but this is really just a nice way that I can come in and quickly start to see all the information around the goal, how we're ultimately going to measure this, how this is going to be tracked in terms of date ranges, and then what company or what competencies is this ultimately going to be associated with? What am I working for to help achieve? Is this for my current role? Is this for a future role? Or is this just maybe a general skill set that I need to develop and create because this is something required of everybody within the organization? Now, as I create those goals, they get added to my development goal plan. You can even have multiple plans where maybe I have one plan that's just from kind of my career. Maybe there's specific high development plans. So you could have multiple different plans for multiple different users. And then again, it's really just determining what we want to be able to see. You could even get to the point where we have organizations that will kind of link continuous performance management achievements to things like a development plan. So again, maybe we're not using the link to the learning module. We want to actually tie this into some of these things that are taking place through the meetings with their manager on a kind of quarterly basis, being able to see everything from the feedback that was brought in to some of the goals and how they've maybe achieved that goal. But this is also where, again, if you are using the learning management system, again, you can link into the catalog. You can actually associate specific learnings by competency. So really just making sure that development and succession have tie-ins to a lot of other modules that really kind of add some value to it. But the nice thing about it is it can be just its own little piece where a lot of organizations may not be using the learning management system. So I can actually come in and maybe create a custom activity that's associated with this goal. So rather than having something that's, again, linked to specific training, maybe this is something where they go off-site and take some sort of class or some sort of training. Maybe they have to read some sort of book that's going to help them develop a better thinking out of the box mindset. So this is really a nice place to be able to kind of have all of this tracked in one place. They can come in and make adjustments to this, adding this, view this to the goal plan, seeing kind of a goal alignment spotlight, seeing how all these goals are maybe tied together, if it's through things like career and performance management, or again, just being able to see when people are coming in and making some of those additions or some of those updates to these goals, letting me know it's on track, maybe letting me know, hey, I've fallen behind on this goal. Maybe we need to kind of readjust the start completion date based on kind of the information that's come to light. Now, that's really the first part of the development piece is, again, setting up that kind of basic development plan. It's very similar to a goal or objective setting, but again, more so looking towards kind of helping close gaps or even looking towards future positions. And that's where the career worksheet really comes into play, because the career worksheet is a nice place where employees can really kind of engage actively in their own career. So I can come in and see, again, some roles I'm considering. We also have a suggested roles tab. So again, what we know about Jeff, here's some roles that we suggest for you that might be a good fit. But I can also come in and start to kind of just peruse the company. I can browse all of the different jobs. I can just start typing in specific keywords and again, have certain training or certain roles come up. And again, maybe I just want to quickly add one of those. But as I start adding roles, I can really start to see how I kind of stack up. Again, not only from just a competency perspective, which you see here, but I can go into the role details, and I can see everything that kind of goes into the executive management. Here's kind of the header. Here's some of the job description, the duties and responsibilities, the summary. I can come in and, again, see information about each individual competency. And maybe, again, this is allowing me to know, hey, there's some areas that I need to work on because I don't have some of these competencies. I don't have any of these skills yet. I mean, all the way down to these are some interview questions that you might be asked for some of these certain roles. So what this does is this actually pulls in information from my last performance review. So this is as of 1/4/2019 for, again, the 2016 performance review. But it's basically pulling in my score of each of these competencies and saying, well, you actually kind of meet 6 of these competencies. So when I scroll down, I can see a lot of these. I'm way ahead of kind of the expected rating. I can always come in and, again, just see what's in the competency details. But as I scroll back up, I can see there's a little bit of a gap here, and I have nothing in terms of this competency. So what are the next logical things for me to do as an employee? Come in, set up a developmental goal, be able to link learning to that, to be able to kind of link something to that to prove once I'm ready to kind of, again, maybe take on that role or to be seriously considered, I can go through this, evaluate our readiness piece, our kind of role readiness assessment with the manager, and again, just maybe go back through and see some of the changes that I've made, some of the things I've done to really try and increase my ability to take that role on or maybe to be placed in that role as a successor for somebody that's maybe moving on down the road. The other piece here is with each of these, there are, of course, different competencies that are tied to these. And you'll even start to see under the digital consultant, things change. I mean, this only has 2 employees. If I go into the sales, again, this has maybe no employees that are currently in sales, which, again, would be an odd piece. But as I come back to the executive management, you can even set up things like a career path. So, again, I want to know how do I ultimately get to that executive management role. Maybe I need to look at management and planning. But maybe I'm in operations, and this isn't even really something I've thought about up to this point. So with each of these, I can target that role. I can actually come in and see all of the description and associated competencies associated with that, and really just kind of get a vision of how I ultimately might get to that road or get to that position down the road. And again, this is also something that a lot of organizations may not even know that I'm interested in being in executive management. And there's never really a great way to tell unless I can actually make this available and kind of searchable within the system. So now making this available in my public profile is something that now people can see when they're looking at my employee profile. This is information I can pull into a succession plan and see who's maybe kind of has this as a role that they're considering, or one of those roles that, again, maybe I just hadn't kind of looked at them yet, but they might be a great fit for that job. Now, I'm not sure if there are questions coming in, but we'll get to a lot of those at the end, and some of them might even be getting answered as we're going through. And really the last piece around kind of the development area is the mentoring. So as we get into some of these different areas, it's really making sure that, again, as we're looking at things like setting up mentors, it's being able to really kind of make sure that we can simplify this process by removing a lot of the manual administrative work that goes into kind of mentoring programs. So a lot of it is just automatically matching, and I don't have a ton set up here, but being able to automatically match mentors and mentees powered by an intelligent algorithm that we came up with to make sure, again, as people are setting up and saying, you know what, I want to view as a mentor. These are some of the things that I'm interested in kind of promoting. Here's some of my preferences. And again, trying to align people that have something very similar, giving you that modern tool to really simplify this process from start to end. And then again, this all ties back into some of the talent information. This can even tie into kind of the jam piece, where I've seen organizations that, again, want these two to have more of a social collaboration kind of type mentoring. So being able to post documents and get feedback and do some of those different things really allows for the mentoring to kind of take that next step beyond, again, maybe there's things on my career worksheet that I'm just not quite sure how to kind of build out that skill set, making sure that mentees can see mentors who actually fit that profile, can maybe help them develop that skill set because it's a skill they have, or just being able to see kind of a side-by-side view of the mentees and mentors and seeing, hey, who am I maybe giving a little bit more time to? Who are some of the people that I maybe need to make sure I'm reaching out to a little bit more, all the way down to just making sure that admins can kind of create some of these social collaboration pieces, making sure that all these people are matched and easily accessible to make sure that everybody has kind of the right kind of forward-thinking process. It's not something where, again, I just come in and I can't see any of the information that's out there. I just want to quickly be able to come in and see, what am I looking at as a mentee, what am I looking at as a mentor, and how can I go to action to help. Now, from here, we'll kind of move over to the succession piece, because I think of development really being more of the end user themselves, kind of looking at, again, how do I develop a career set for my current position? What are some of the things I need to start looking at for current or for future roles down the road? As our succession we get into, I think, is a little bit more set up around, again, looking at more of the planning aspect, where what we've looked at so far is really just kind of the employee manager perspective, but this is typically your HR management, key HR or senior management, key HR personnel that are looking more at things like a succession org chart, being able to come in and start kind of seeing, well, Jeff might be kind of just getting maybe close to retirement, and we just want to make sure that this is a very key position within the role. That's how I can see here, very key position. And this just basically being able to see from a successor standpoint, what are Jada and kind of James really up to? What are some of the things that they're working on? How close are they? So this is where I can come in and I can start to pull up information, not only kind of just by Jada, but I can kind of do a side-by-side comparison as well, and just, again, get all my kind of talent information, some of the nominations where, again, maybe they've been nominated for a certain position by a manager, by an HR personnel. I can start to see things like that 9 box, where they stand on the performance, what was their latest rating, how have they looked over kind of a trend process in terms of kind of going up or down. I can see all the different competencies and objectives that were tied to this. So it's really just a nice piece to be able to come in and get that kind of quick snapshot of where people stand. And then this is, again, a lot of this information is captured in the employee profile, things like geographic mobility. So as I'm looking for a succession plan, we know this is an international role and that we need geographic mobility as well as multiple language skills. So being able to pull that in and then use that as a rating to see who might be a best fit, all the way down to some of my performance, some of my kind of formal education that's been entered, but really just a nice place to be able to kind of get that one snapshot view of where people stand in terms of specific successors. I can go down the line and, again, see what are some of these roles that maybe don't have a successor. What are some of these people that don't maybe have a successor? They're more tied to a talent pool, and just saying, well, we have a lot of people in the engineering pool, so just making sure that we can quickly get in and see who are some of these different people. When I want to add a successor, I can come in and, again, from the internal candidates and based on the competencies and some of the job-related descriptions, I can start to see who are going to be some of the best candidates. Of course, if I want to just add Anson, I can do that right here. We can look at external candidates and create somebody. I could also go into an advanced search, which we'll go into here in a little bit, but really just giving that kind of easy capability to see where people stand within the system. Of course, I can even then go into specific insights here around what are the successors by role, what are the successors by readiness. So just kind of having some of those reports that, again, without having to leave succession, can be very helpful I can even then start to drill into these and see who's maybe in this one specific area and who has kind of some of the data that we need. As we come back, this is then where, again, we also have a position tile, where this is more of kind of looking at it from just the kind of specific organizational kind of person perspective. We also, again, have a lot of organizations that use the position tile as a way to, again, see, I want to know everybody in this kind of manager role, and I want to just be able to see everybody based on the specific kind of position that's applied. Of course, I have a number of different filter options, and again, I can come in and see some of these key positions that have no named successors, and being able to quickly start going through that process and say, hey, well, we need to go in and find somebody. Let's go ahead and look at some of these different successors and some of these different people. And of course, not everybody's going to have the ability. You can see here, there's some of these where I can't go in and add a successor. It's just permission-based, where not everybody can come in and add somebody to every role within the system. We want to make sure that everybody kind of is taking care of the things they need to, but also making sure that all these different filters can be applied. So as I need to really narrow down that position search, I can really kind of bring all the information in that I need. The lineage chart will actually show me the kind of risks of, if this person takes this role, what is going to happen to their position? Do we have succession? Do we have successors all the way down the line in order to kind of maintain all of these different key positions and make sure that, again, we have the right talent in the right job? As we look at some of the talent pools, this is really where we can kind of start to group things together, like these high performers. We did our 9-box, and we noticed here are some of the people that are really high potential or top talent people within the organization. So being able to come in and start seeing, hey, let's see this talent pool. Let's see who's all part of this. And I meant to actually click into the top talent, not see. And so now I can come in and, again, just start to see from a talent pool for their job title, what their kind of readiness is. I can come in, see some of the just different notes that have been added, where maybe, again, Andrea's a little bit kind of, she's maybe fallen behind, just work's kind of starting to pile up. So we're going to say, you know, she was ready to now, but we're going to say it's still 2 years away because we don't know if we're going to have an open position. I can come in and add somebody new to the kind of talent pool nominee. But again, just start to kind of pull up, again, those little quick cards about everybody to see who I have access to and kind of what I can run within the system. Now, the talent search is one of the kind of key aspects of succession. This is really where we can go in and start kind of harnessing all of the data that we collect from these users, whether it's specific information around just their background, whether it's specific information that's tied to things like competency. So you can see here, as I first come in, I already have a saved search. So again, some of these searches that I'm going to constantly be doing as an administrator or as an HR professional, I want to be able to come in and just constantly have this information already saved. So when I come in, I'm looking for our risk of high loss. I'm looking for our high impact of loss people. I want to see anybody that has this talent pool with this kind of formal education. It needs to be from this. It needs to have this major. I can even bring in some ratings and competencies and see, I just want to see from an overall competency perspective, or I want to go in and see each individual competency and kind of pull up and say, how are they at accepting direction? Now, if I were to come in and start over, this basically erases, and I can now come in and start with any of the information that we just talked about. I can come in and bring in all of the basic information where, again, just kind of my general employee information. What was their hire date? Are they in a key position? What's their kind of risk of loss? All of these different kind of basic little pieces about the user themselves before we get into some of the more advanced information. What are some of their career goals? Is this something that, again, maybe I didn't even know they were interested in this, but now that I'm looking at their career goals, let's actually take that into account. Let's look at formal education. Let's look at geographic mobility. Let's look at some of their previous employment. So again, all of these are just little filter options where as I select these, I can kind of then drill down into each different area, all the way down into, again, things like overall objectives, selecting specific date ranges of, hey, I just need to see when they met expectations from here to here. And essentially all of these are just kind of preset to where now when I come in and I have some of this information selected and I do my search, it's just like when we went to add a successor before, but now I get a little bit more information. I can start breaking this down a little bit more by kind of just some of the different filter options I have. I can also start to kind of, again, select somebody. Again, maybe I want to add Jada to one of the pools that we've created. Maybe I want to nominate Jada as a successor. maybe I want to look at how 3 of these people stack up, because again, nobody's really in a great spot. So let's go ahead and compare people. Let's see how Ben, Jada, and Stephanie kind of stack up on a side-by-side comparison. And I can come in and see that risk of loss, some of the important information, some of the information that I've brought in terms of advanced things. I can bring in my competencies, and again, just basically pulling from all that information that we set up in the talent search. That's what's kind of showing me who's available and who might be the best match in a percentage-based. Of course, we can always come back and modify that search, go back in, add any of these different pieces. It needs to be somebody from this department, and again, just being able to really drill into all these different areas. Now, of course, kind of the last thing here with the succession piece is the performance versus potential kind of matrix. So a lot of organizations use a 9-box functionality to really come in and be able to see how organizations, again, whether it's from a team view, whether it's starting from the admin, whether it's showing all levels, whether it's pulling specific divisions, departments, and again, just being able to generate this to see who are some of the people that, again, are maybe an underperformer, who's maybe Faith was new, so she's kind of showing up as an acceptable performer, but we expect her to move forward in that. And again, everything is just basically that clickable piece where I can come in and see that kind of one snapshot view of all the things relating to Faith. Maybe I don't know exactly what all these kind of legends mean, so coming in and quickly getting an idea of where she stands, what are maybe some of the expectations for her, but also being able to come in and kind of make sure that Jada knows, hey, you're a top performer. We want to make sure that, again, you're being well taken care of and that you're set up for specific successor positions. You're set up as part of our high potential users that, again, we might be looking at for multiple kind of different positions moving forward. So this is just kind of one of the type of reports. The how versus what is more of an objective versus competency type report. But there's a number of different ways that you can come in and see all these different reports. I mean, even from, you saw when we were at the homepage, you have even some of these little insight pieces that I can get to without even needing to go into reports. Just being able to click on some of these different little insights and say, show me who these people are, successors by readiness. I want to see who we have ready now. And again, be able to quickly kind of pull that information out of the system to see who's in that ready to now group, and making sure that we're going to go ahead and look at some of these people to see if they can fill that role. Now, one of the last pieces here is kind of the calibration piece. Now, calibration kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of this, from performance reviews to development, really just making sure that as you're looking at kind of, again, making sure all of the team is kind of set up in the right way. We're making sure we're looking at everybody from a kind of single dimensional perspective, going in and really just being able to see all the different characteristics that we want to see. Why do we have so many people from this one team that are all high performers? And then, again, being able to have that discussion and see who are some of the people that, again, fall into some of these different areas. Why is everybody part of this high group? Do we maybe need to look at moving somebody over into the good group? And again, we can do a drag and drop, but it's really facilitating that discussion and making sure that as I kind of make these changes, that I save this before we actually get to that point. I could even just look at a list view and just see, who's got this kind of rating? What are some of the attributes that people have? And again, be able to kind of move them as we need, but also be able to filter down into that set and say, I'm just looking for people with this manager in this part of the organization, and being able to apply all of those filters. But calibration is really just going to be that kind of another piece to look at how everybody in the organization is stacking up. If we have one manager that consistently gives higher scores to all of his employees, as where this manager is a little bit tougher and their employees tend to rate a little bit lower. So really being able to have and facilitate that discussion that drives us to, again, getting to that point of who are the key excellent performers and how do we make sure to maintain them and develop their needs as we move forward.